Hi everybody. I think it's on. I think we're running. Michael Fisk with Tri-States Roadmaster Group. We're doing a Facebook Live here on November 20th, the week. I think Thanksgiving is actually a week from today. Just give it a couple of seconds where give people a chance to get logged on here. It's been a minute since I've done a Facebook Live. Apologize for that. Um, while people are jumping on, and as you jump on, feel free to say hi. Let's test out the comments. Let me know if there's any issues hearing me or anything like that. Safety message again. If you're watching this, we appreciate you. If you're driving, don't watch this. It will be recorded, so you can, turn it on and catch up at a later time. But again, I've talked about this before. I do a lot of driving around the country, and it is amazing to me how many CDLA professional drivers. I see that they're holding their cell phone and watching a movie. I see that a lot where they're watching a movie, while they're driving, and so guys, just can't do that. But anyway, Zach Foster, see you. Appreciate that. Nathan Hill, how are you? Nathan and I shared a Texas Roadhouse dinner not too long ago out in Colorado. When we were together. Scott Egan's he gave us some good news. I hope to. I don't know that it's going to be as good as you want it to be, but there's things are up and down, but we're going to discuss some of that here. Hi Amy, good to see you here. So again, you just give it a few more seconds as people are logging in here. The big question that I have is Joplin is Kansas City Chief territory. Is are the Chiefs going to be okay? It's I'm in a fantasy league. I'm in a Calcutta league, and I'm glad I didn't buy the Chiefs. It looks like they're gonna struggle a bit here. But those of you who are on here, keep in mind, I want your comments. I want your questions. Now, if it's a specific dispatch question, this is probably not the forum for it. But if you've got a general question that would be good to discuss, as a group, happy to do so. Keep in mind, that this is a public forum. Our customers see this, our competitors see this, as well as our drivers. So, there are some things, of course, that are not going to be entirely appropriate to get into a lot of details. I welcome the questions, welcome the engagement, and we'll go through the tough stuff. So. Anyway, Texans are struggling. They're hi Janet Duncan, good to see you. Um, Kyle, so Kyle Smith's our planner. He's pretty happy with the Seahawks. Seahawks look like they're pretty legit, this year. So, anyway, let's go. Let's go and get started here. Listen, it's. I think I'm going to start with the state of the industry, state of in business, how roadmaster groups are doing. The industry is not doing well. It's essentially trucking has been in about a 4-year recession. If the whole country was going through the shrinkage and the challenges and the struggles that trucking was, the whole country would be in a recession for 4 years. Fortunately, listen, I know things are not great everywhere, in the country, but fortunately, the country is doing better than the industry as a whole is doing. Tri-State, Roadmaster Group, SJ, Transportation, ATCO, we're doing much better than most of trucking. With that being said, it's been a challenge for us as well for the last few years. We're weathering it well. We are still profitable. We do have an ownership group that has an expectation for us to kick up, a certain amount of profits. They would like us to probably generate more than what we are, but we're in a healthy place. And a lot of companies cannot say that. There's a lot of bankruptcies if you follow the news, if you follow the industry. There's a lot of issues out there. Freight is down. And some of the numbers that I've seen, freight volumes are down. For those of you who like to, understand, data, a bit, and what we're looking at. There's a lot of economic indicators out there that suggest that freight volumes are down to 2009 levels. And as you recall, 2008, this when we really had a big, economic recession in the country, wide. And so, you got to do the math in my head. 16 years, type of volume, which is not a great place to be. Again, Tri-State, SJ, ATCO, we're healthy. It's we make moves ahead of the curve, and not all of those moves are popular. I do get messages from you saying, hey, you're doing things that that aren't good for me personally, and so forth, and I get it. But we're making moves and decisions that keep the company healthy overall. We still pay better, than anybody else, to our drivers. What's been really, impressive for us is rates are down, and some of our key, customer volumes are down, but our reputation and our service has allowed us to go get more freight. So our mileage and our load count isn't necessarily impacted because we're doing the work, to stay healthy. But it's a fight out there. It's the Trump administration, and Secretary, Duffy, they're determined to help right size some of the capacity, of trucking out there. And what I mean by that, and if you follow the news, it's undocumented drivers, English speaking proficiency drivers, they're getting removed from the capacity, truck capacity, arena. And all of those things, are important, for us. On the Mexican border, it's and again, we need good allies. We need good Canadian allies, and we need good, Mexican allies. But they need to be legal, and they need to follow the rules and the processes that the rest of us, have to do. And some of the data that we're seeing over the Mexican border is, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 15,000. Mexican, CDL drivers are coming up over the border, which is fine. They're allowed to. It's, we need that, cross-border, work there. But there's rules in place where they're supposed to essentially be back, checking in, going, south, on the border within 24 hours. Well, there's data out there that suggests that they're out there 21, 23 days. So at any given time, we may still have a couple 100,000 of essentially illegal, labor, running around, and they're underpricing the market and so forth, and so the administration, are trying to help those things, and those are all, challenges that if we can get them resolved, will kind of lower the overall capacity. And it's all supply and demand, right? If you have publicly traded trucking stock, you'll see that a lot of them have shrunk 20-30% in the last couple of years. But one of the big trucking companies out there, Derek Leathers of Warner, saw an article where he's talking about, says, hey, we can't shrink anymore. He called it putting his heels in the sand and says, hey, we've shrunk to as much as we can, to be, efficient and to keep our business healthy, but we can't shrink anymore, there. So it's a lot of challenges out there. But again, let me reiterate, Roadmaster Group companies are healthy. We continue to do well, and that's all of our operating companies, Tri-State, SJ Transportation, and ATCO. So Let me jump into some questions here, real quick. Janet, when are we going to get fog lights on our trucks? I don't have a good answer for that, Janet. I can tell you that Garrett and Jorge and Russ are speccing out trucks now, for 2026 delivery. If some of you guys have some of the new trucks, I'd be interested in some of your thoughts and comments on some of the new trucks that we got in 2025. I know they're not all going to be good, comments, but happy to engage, that, regardless. They're Martha Barnes. Hi. Speaking of new trucks, and I know they just got a new one, and it's a pretty badass looking truck. Chantel Bird. Hi. And Garza. Hi. Okay, so that's kind of the state of the freight. I mean, it's because of where the capacity is versus freight. Listen, everybody's after our customers. Everybody's after our freight. Now is not the time to be complacent. I mean, it's in 2023, when we're probably peaked, freight volume. If we had a service issue, if we messed up, something, I mean, it's look, it's not a good look. Our customers weren't happy, but for the most part, we were able to smooth that over. Sarah Hogan and her CSR team, Don Wolchoff and his sales team, and Big Sam, and to be candid, a lot of times our customers, they'd be frustrated, but we're still the best option that they had. When there's just no other capacity available. In an environment like this, I mean, it's our customers have options. And to get the rates, listen, if we can't get the rates that we do, if we can't get the freight volumes that we get, then we can't pay what we do. And I know our owner-operators are struggling this year, more so, than they have for a long, long time. I'm well aware of that. They ride the freight volume up and down just like Tri-State and Roadmaster Group does, right? Our company drivers have been pretty stable. We had to make some adjustments to pay in April, but the guaranteed pay for our company drivers is still leading edge, out there. I mean, it's for us to be able to continue that and to manage that, we've got to keep our customers happy. And I do need to address a few issues here that that we need to do a better job on. The first part, I'm going to call it, common sense isn't so common. Guys, gals, we've got to wear the proper attire, when we get to a customer. I mean, flip-flops and Crocs. I mean, not only are they not DOT, legal. I mean, it's yes, I'm well aware that what do the kids call it? The racing mode on the Crocs. That you can put the band on, and everything. But guys, I mean, it's we know that's not a great look for our customers. And when it's snowing out in Colorado and Canada and whatever, and we're going into our customers, in shorts and flip-flops. Not only is that a ridiculous look, for us, and reduces our professionalism, and but it brings additional scrutiny to you individually, personally, and to us as a company. Let's not do it. That just defies common sense, right? I mean, it's there's another issue with PPE. Listen, we're a hazardous carrier. Because we're a hazardous carrier, many of our facilities, we have to have proper footwear. We have to have, long sleeve shirts. We have to wear, the proper, pants and all of those kind of things. I understand. I was a driver myself, and did I always drive in Carhartts and jeans and steel-toed boots? No, I didn't. Okay, I mean, it's you drive in shorts and be comfortable. And listen, you better have full shoe on. I mean, those are DOT regs and everything. But I kept a pair of boots right next to my seat. And before I got out of the truck, I would just put the boots on. More times than not as wearing pants. But man, we got to help ourselves here. We got to use some common sense. When in engaging with our customers. I can tell you, that in this heightened environment that we are with the customers, there's going to be additional scrutiny on that. So guys, let's help each other and hold each other accountable. I mean, it's I'm not asking to confront each other on it. But give us a heads up on what's going on so we can address it, because I'm telling you, our customers are seeing that, and our customers are asking us, what's going on. And in this freight environment, it's that's not something that we want to be having to deal with too much. So proper attire should be common sense. PPE, if you don't understand what the customer requires as far as PPE, make sure you reach out, okay, and let's get that addressed here. That's a simple thing, really. And again, I'm well aware that the attire that we wear when we drive is one thing, but the attire that we put on when we're a customer should be another. Listen, there's alternatives we can go to. We can go to a full uniform. I don't think anybody wants that. Right. I mean, it's but we are needing your help and asking and frankly requiring your help, in order to to get this resolved, not only on a common sense basis, but for our customers, request and I guess well-being. So anyway, all right. Let me go back to. There's a lot of comments here. As Andy Garza, is owner operator coming back next year to Tri-State or no? Again, I don't have a good answer for that. I will say this: the economic indicators out there doesn't look great. I mean, it's we on a DoD basis and public companies basis, we're pretty aware of truck volume and capacity out there. I can tell you the owner-operator companies in the DoD space have shrunk about 30%, most of them. Okay, I mean it's there's another owner-operator company that that I know pretty well that has nothing to do with DoD. They've shrunk from 400 some trucks down to 211. Guys, I just don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's read the news. FreightWave, CCJ. Anything that talks about trucking and economy. It's a struggle out there. And again, I think a lot of you guys are sheltered, from that because of how we operate, and that goes to tell you, we're healthy. I mean, we're doing, good things. But even us, we're feeling the impacts. I mean, we're not as as profitable as we were in 2023, but we are healthy. So are we going to bring back or grow our owner operator fleets, 2026? I'm not saying hard no, but until indications and freights and rates, come back, we're going to continue to have a hold on that, there. Jake Moffitt, hi. Martha, you love your truck. I don't blame. If you guys haven't seen Tim and Martha Barnes' truck, I mean, that thing is awesome, there. Michelle DuBois, 2026 KW, lots of sensors, but overall decent. That's good to hear. We are, our KWs have had some challenges that we're arm wrestling with KW on, there. So I'm glad, overall, yours has been pretty good. We're finding that the Volvos that we got are performing a lot better in many ways, including reliability and comfort, that kind of stuff. But yeah, appreciate your comment on that, Michelle. Michelle, is there going to be a lease purchase deal coming into play? Again, we've never had a lease purchase, arrangement. Why I've been, with Roadmaster Group, it's over 11 years now. We do have a lease rental program, and again, it's we've had a couple enter into it in the last few months, but it's kind of extenuating circumstances there, guys. It's not a great environment to be owner operators. In fact, I have 2 calls today, where there's some concerns about an owner operator truck getting repossessed, and we have nothing to do with that, there. But if there's a better place to go, I wouldn't blame you, to consider other places. But this is not a great environment for owner operators right now. I mean, it's and a desire to be good partners and protect our drivers, from again, difficult situations, our lease program is for the most part buttoned down, right now as well. So, Martha, I think we need to be more picky in hiring people. Go back to more experienced drivers. Martha, that's a fair comment, and let me kind of give you some some background on that. Okay, it's first of all, our driver qualifications have not changed for, gosh, many years. Okay, I mean it's we are in the world of trucking is still a pretty small company. I mean, we're large enough, I like to use this, expression, we're large enough to have, the tools that the big boys have, but we're small enough that, we should still know each other. That's, you're not just a truck number. Yeah, and, we can make, key decisions, quickly and efficiently, being small enough. Driver hiring is much more an art than it is a science. I mean, it's creating driver qualifications. So if a driver, for example, has a rollover, every company out there, including us, is probably going to fire that driver. But what if they have 15 years of stellar experience? And they have one bad moment, I mean, maybe it's really bad luck, a gust of wind, listen, I mean, golly, I mean, the respect that we have for drivers is immense because you're in tough situations all the time. I remember I was in Cincinnati and it was windy and wintry, and I could feel my trailer like. I wasn't loving what was going on back there, but back then I was paid cents per mile. I mean, you're trying to balance, okay, I can pull over, but someone's going to be yelling at me, I'm not going to make any money. I see other trucks driving. I mean, if they're still running down the road, shouldn't die, type of thing. I mean, it's, you're put in a lot of tough situations, there. And sometimes, we don't make the right decisions. But I remember going in Cincinnati, going over a bridge, and you guys know Cincinnati, lots of bridges there. And I felt my trailer lift. You guys all know what I'm talking about there. It's like, holy crap. I mean, it's, it's, I was loaded, and then I was up in Albert something, Minnesota. You guys know where I'm talking about. And I'm exiting off that exit there, and my trailer or my tractor stopped, and I see my trailer just pivot over, there, and there's nothing I can do. There's a car in front of me, and all of that, and so those kind of things happen, and I mean it's and if we fire that driver like everybody says, we should, then golly, I mean it's you're probably firing the best driver in the country because he's not going to put himself in those situations again. But you're damned if you do, if you're damned if you don't. If we don't, and then something else happens, and everyone you're going to say, well, you're an idiot. You had that rollover. You should have fired him. When that happened. There, right? Martha, we try to hire for character. I mean, it's we try to. I mean, we've got the qualifications. The qualifications are about as strenuous as any company out there. I can tell you that our recruiters, and a couple of them are probably on here, at least one of them, I'm guessing, they turn down an awful lot of drivers. I mean, that are technically qualified, that are on paper qualified. I promise you that they care as much about hiring and bringing in good drivers, as we do about having them. But at the same time, everybody has to get a start someplace. So we balance all of that, right? I mean, it's they're. And then and the bottom line is, Martha, is we are still trying to grow. And in order to grow, we have to go get, more drivers. Sometimes that means we have to develop them into good drivers. I mean, it's, good drivers, companies aren't just giving them up. I mean, it's, there's, if a driver's looking for a job, typically there's a reason for that, there, so it is a whole smorgasbord of complications and considerations and things that go into that whole process there. But that's a fair statement, and yeah, we keep working towards that. So, Nick, the new 2026 Volvos are great riding truck. Just working out the kinks of the new system. Would like to have been able to keep 68 instead of going to 65 with the new trucks, but other than that, it's a great truck. So again, Nick, you should still have the 68, available to you, as a reward, or I'm not. To be honest with you, I'm not sure what the Volvos, what it takes to be on the pedal, there. But send a message in. Send a message into your DM, and we'll get somebody, from breakdown to take a look at that in there. So, Michelle Dubois, I agree with Martha. Quality, over quantity. We all agree with Martha, okay, and I, you kind of addressed that, there. Yeah, I think I've probably talked enough about that. Miranda Fowler, sports mode of the Crocs. Yes, that's what it is. Sports mode. Thank you. Philip and Amy, hi again. Philip and Amy, at all customers, proper shoes, proper pants, proper tops. Yeah, I mean it's we all know that, right? It's complacency and laziness, that gets us there. But I appreciate your comments and support on that. Will speed go up on trucks? Seems like other trucks are passing us when they used to not pass us. Paying Walmart, they're. I promise you that they, are nobody in this industry. I mean, Warner, for crying out loud, is still dealing with a $50 million, lawsuit loss. There. I promise you, nobody in this environment. One of the biggest issues still in trucking these days is survival, of these lawsuits. So yeah, I can promise you that that those things have not changed. What is changing is the technology, that goes into all of that, and those are some interesting things that don't always work as well as they should, but but are getting better, there. So anyway. Few customers in Arkansas, Josh, are getting upset with some new drivers wearing basketball shorts and undergarments showing and flip-flops. And again, Josh, you're right, and that should be embarrassing to all of us, there. So, Michelle Dubois, appreciate your comments on that. Yeah, and again, quality over quantity. You're absolutely right. It's we'll be cracking down on that. Okay, so Josh, I see your other comments there. Hi, Kai. Scott, not fair for the company trucks to always have a few loads ahead while the owner operating one at a time. We're all TSMT. So Scott, let me address that. I knew that they would come up. First of all, our owner operators are still very well compensated. I can tell you, Scott, that I grew up in Central Illinois, and we use an expression here: the sun shines on every dog's rear once in a while. Our company drivers were so frustrated, with they knew what our owner operators were making, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I mean, it's even last year, our owner operators were doing really well. I mean, it's there is a business risk, and there's cycles to business. I mean, it's as owner operators, you are business partners with Tri-States. You're not the same as company drivers. You don't have the same benefits. You don't have the same, privileges and what have not. Generally, what makes it worthwhile to be an owner operator is you'll make more money, but you also have more risk. And that is just, when you choose to run your own business, I mean, our company drivers have stability. Our company drivers, have a lower floor. Our company drivers have less risk, but they also have less upside. And that's what's going on and experienced here. It's at our peak, I think we had almost 250 owner operators. Okay, I mean it's Scott, to be fair, competitively, that's why we stopped bringing in owner operators. As much as we can, we want to take care of the owner operators that have stayed committed and loyal to us. But the parameters of all of that, shifts, according to our business relationships and the economy and so forth. And Scott, that's kind of business 101, there. Feel free to call me, directly, if you'd like to have a more specific conversation. But I know there's a bunch of our company drivers right now, my email say, hey, I want to be an owner operator. I want to be an owner operator. I want to be in the lease program. And, and I'm telling them is, hey, listen, now is not a great time to do so. It protects our owner operators that we do have. And Scott, I might start sending them your way, to talk them out of it, there. So, Jason Slade, will TriState ever open up true solo over the owner operating for, there? Again, Jason, it's a, yes, but when I can't tell you. I know Kyle is on here, but again, according to the needs, of our customers and our freight and so forth. And again, we value our solo drivers. Our solo drivers, are important. But nonetheless, TriState in particular and ATCO at 100% basis, is a team operation. So solos are often used to support the team operations as we do. So anyway, okay, let me continue here. So proper tire PPE, guys. That's something I just know that we're going to be cracking down on. More and more. I mean, it's and it should be a personal embarrassment if we have to call you, and say, hey, listen, man. I mean, it's we got reports that you're in 2 feet of snow and shorts and flip flops, are crying out loud. So anyway, I just got a notice that my internet is maybe not awesome. So if you guys are seeing that issue, please let me know here. All right, let me keep moving here. HR open enrollment for our new benefit changes, and I don't know what's going on there, is now closed. If for some reason you missed that, so my situation, I didn't change anything, so I didn't have to do anything. There's no activity required of me. So if you did not do anything, during your open enrollment period, just whatever you had before is just going to continue to, to be the case. There, but yeah, just I'm not a benefit expert. So if you have any additional questions on that, get with HR, here. Winter driving. It's listen, we're going into winter, and this is go back to Martha's comment and I'm sorry, Michelle. They're quality over quantity. Every so often we get comments from drivers saying, "Hey, listen, I'm not comfortable, driving in these conditions." You're the captain of the ship. I mean, it's we're not ever going to force you to drive in conditions that you don't feel safe. Now, with that being said, if you're pulled over and you're telling us it's a weather issue, and we have 10 other trucks, that is passing you on I-80 or 95 or whatever it is, we're going to have a conversation. We either need to get you some additional training, or we need to understand, what it is, to get you more comfortable, driving in conditions, year round. 100% there are days that our drivers should not be driving. I remember I was early in my driving career. I was on 80 driving through Iowa, and cars were, this is when was this, about winter of 2012. Some of you guys remember, winter of 2012, and I'm going 20, 25 miles per hour. I mean, I've been driving for like 4 months, there. I didn't, there. And finally, I get a call, from our safety director's like, hey, man, are you driving? And I'm like, yeah, I'm driving, but I'm fine. He goes, hey, listen, if you can't drive any faster than 25 miles per hour, just pull over, there. So listen, I mean, it's 100% there are conditions when you should not be driving, there. But if it's conditions where everybody else is driving, just be aware that we're going to have conversations about that, which leads me into chains. Okay, I mean there's been a lot of conversation about chains lately. Just to be clear, every truck should have 4 sets of chains, which is really 4 bags. It's going to be 8 chains. There. California in particular, I mean, requires you know 4 sets, 8 chains, per truck, there. So there's some confusion on that. I think a lot of trucks only had 3 bags, on them. I would strongly encourage you in good conditions and good weather to take those chains out. Make sure that they're in good condition. Make sure that you have a tensioning tool, cam tool, there. I mean, don't assume that those, everything is fine there. And do it in good weather, for crying out loud. Don't wait until you're in crappy, snowy weather, to do it. There. Lay them out. Make sure that they're in good condition. And if there's not, get with your DM, and they can guide you to get new ones. Now, let me be clear. Rusty does not mean that they're, unusable. I mean, yeah, let's apply some common sense here and make sure that they're in good usage, there. A lot of what we do is pretty interesting stuff. I mean, we don't require anybody to go to Canada. We don't require anybody to go to Alaska, but we do a lot of stuff in Yukon Territory and northern British Columbia and obviously Quebec and Alaska. So if those are things that you would like to do in your career, and experience, you got to earn that right? I mean, and again, we don't require it, but but you got to earn that right to be, to increase your skill sets and be able to handle those things. And a lot of those customers up there require chains. I mean, it's and almost year round. I mean, you just cannot navigate even if they don't have a big snowstorm. I mean, there's parts of British Columbia that they're ice for 8 months of the year, right? In normal driving conditions, we don't generally require our drivers to put chains on, but certain customers will require chains, so just be aware of that, there. So, the other thing, and I'll go back to, I see a lot of questions and comments, coming here again. Load securement, guys. It's load securement is one of the biggest issues that we have. Let me share some numbers with you, okay? I mean, it's it's what we do is so blooming frustrating sometimes because we almost have to be perfect. I mean, it's we over the last I believe 2 years, we had something like 1,300 hazmat inspections. Okay, and I'm not going to give you the full numbers, there, but our percentage of violations of those of total inspections is double digits. I'll just tell you that. Okay, I mean it's and you do the numbers there. I mean, we're not perfect, but we're pretty damn good, there. I mean, it's but if you get the wrong, violations, and you guys understand how CSA works, I mean, it's multiplying our points, and compounders and points come off after a period of time, and so on and so forth. But load securement is one of the heftiest violations that we can get, and we've had, I think, 4 load securement issues in 4 months, basically one a month. And we do thousands and thousands of loads, right? I mean, it's there. But the problem with load securement, hazmat issues is that normally will put that load out of operations, and then the points just escalate on. It's not just on the company, but on you as a driver. There, it's going to jeopardize your career. If you get those CSA points. I think you guys all understand that. So we do pick up some new customers. We. Some of them are existing customers, but we picked up new lanes through an acquisition, and some of those customers are not properly trained on, tri-state standard of securement, will go and similar that we did, in California, and I don't want to call out customers by name, but we have gone to many times customers and trained their people and their staff on proper load securement, there. But until we're able to do that, with some of these new lanes and customers we picked up, you guys got to make sure the load securement's done properly, there. So if in doubt, take a picture of it, send it in, to our safety group or whatever. But the load securement, is an issue. I mean, again, it's we've had one a month for the last 4 months, there. We just almost have to be perfect on that, there. So if any questions or issues on that, send us in the picture there. So, all right. Let me go through some questions and comments here. Marciano, 5 years. Yeah, we're grateful to you for 5 years. And again, owner operators go up and down. There. I'm glad that that you're having a good year, but a lot of that has to do with your availability, and that kind of stuff as well. So. We love Tri-State. Customers are great. I agree. DM is great. Staff is great. Thank you all. Ande, I appreciate your comments. Listen, every day's not great, right? But if you stack up enough good days, then it makes it a pretty damn good place to work, and that's what we try to do. EF Gonzalez, I wear my short sleeve shirt and my hey dudes, but when I know I'll be loading or unloading my tanker, I put on my proper work attire. And that's it. Again, common sense. What you wear to drive is different than when you get to customers. I mean, I get that. We get that, there. But we just got to use that common sense, there. Rebecca, it has been a long time. Hi, there. Patrick, the governor of these trucks need turned up. I'm stuck at 65. Yeah, if you're stuck at 65, it's either one of two things. It's either something's not set right, or there's some driving behavior that is not getting you the reward, the 3 miles per hour that you should. So again, send a message in to your DM and let's investigate that there. Patrick, Washington and other states require drag chain as well, there. So again, those regulations. So there. So yeah, let's just do what we need to do to be legal, there. So so pick up that 9th chain if you need to. And Martha, they know how to use them. Yeah, fair point. And again, practice when the conditions are good, not when it's 10 degrees, for crying out loud, there. So anyway, Patrick, Canadian Pride there. So will we ever open up fleets? I do not want to lose my DM, Danny, just to get flatbed or tanker loads. I'm not sure what you're asking, Sylvia, but yeah, just send an email. Happy to answer that. Any advice on your hybrid owner-operator taking additional training but sitting for long periods knowing there's freight not being covered? I promise you, there is no freight not being covered. I mean, it's this is beyond the explanation I gave. I can tell you, our owner operators do less deadhead. There. I mean, sometimes you got to be more willing to do more deadhead. Our company trucks do a tremendous amount of deadhead. To cover the various customer needs and everything. But those are all business decisions that each of you and each of us make there. So. Okay. All right. I think I got through. I can't get a report to have to idle the truck for my CPAP. Patrick, I wouldn't give up on that. There. So it's send in. Let's ask the question and dig in a bit more. There. So again with. With the extra batteries that we've got and obviously the the APUs and everything, it should. And I know APUs are not awesome. We're looking at technologies beyond that as well. So this past Monday, JD and her, this is getting long, so I'm going to try to wrap up here, but I appreciate everyone's participation and the comments. We got special kudos, from one of our specialized projects that Michael and John Powers and Kevin and Elvis and Preston Morrow were on. We owe them a steak dinner. Listen. If we get kudos, from customers, there that's just talking about how amazing you guys are. Happy to buy those steak dinners. They deserve it. I'm sure many of you, are worthy of praise. I think most of our drivers are worthy of praise. We don't always get them, there. So, but when we do get them, it's fun to be able to, acknowledge that, there. Okay. Patrick, APU doesn't work. Well, it works great in the winter. I get it. To be honest with you, the APUs, I'm not a huge fan, of the APUs, but sometimes it's the best technology out there. It's interesting. Volvo and KW both are working on bigger, more robust batteries. Our newer Volvos have them, and I'm hearing really good things about that. So anyway, yeah, we'll keep working on that. There. Chief, Patrick, again, Canada. It's the companies you're talking about are Canadians. In Canada, regulates 65. There. So I'm not sure. What's different. What's going on there. Okay, the final thing that I need to talk about. Okay, and this might be a little challenging here. I mean, it's we all know that we're coming off, government shutdown that impacted, one of our big customers, there, right? I mean, it's the longest government shutdown, in the history of government shutdowns. We weathered that okay. I mean, it wasn't great for us, there, but we still did, okay here. Here's what's going to happen. Our customers. Our freight's going to explode here, we think, in about a week. Here's our ask. Here's our request. And in fact, here's if they're stronger than a request, that's what I'm doing, is asking something stronger than a request. Let's try to get home time for Thanksgiving here. I mean, it's we anticipate the weekend, though, Saturday, Sunday, we're going to need all hands on deck, and we're hoping that December is going to be, a pretty good month, all the way around. Some time ago, I'd sent out a message to owner-operators, encouraging you to alter your home time, habits. I know, many of you, traditionally take a lot of time off during the holiday season. God bless you. Understand, the frustrations and the challenges, especially around holiday, season of the driving, the world. I mean, it's I'm not married, so I tended to, just work through, Thanksgiving, Christmas season, New Year's, when I was a driver, there, it was less of a, challenge, for me to do so. I understand that, most of you, have family, there. But I would also, I guess, share with you and suggest to you that, the realities of the business, requires us to sometimes change our habits. I mean, it's, nobody in the office wants to work weekends and evenings. I mean, they're used to a Monday through Friday, schedule, right? Well, sometimes the demands of the job requires, I mean, it's, after hours and weekends, and some of them will be working holidays as well. That's kind of the situation we're in right now. We anticipate, that there's going to be a big uptick in servicing our customers. Really, the weekend, of Thanksgiving. So be aware that, you're going to get some additional requests and asks, from your DM and planning, to modify your home time schedule, potentially. and that's where that's coming from. They're not trying to be a jerk. They're not trying to be insensitive to your, to your, needs and desires, and frankly, what you deserve, and all of those kind of things. Especially during the holiday season. But we're in a different situation. We're in a different environment, and we just need to sometimes, recognize that and do what it requires to, to remain healthy and keep going. So, anyway. Let me just check back on the comments here. Martha, working both holidays. Appreciate you, and I think you're going to find that there's a benefit, to that. We can't always say that during the holiday season, and especially the last couple of years. But that's our anticipation. That we're going to have a lot of needs. There, Lisa, we appreciate you. And looking forward to that as well. Chantel, I get it. I mean, it's but again, if you're asked, and if there's other arrangements that you can make, it's especially as an owner operator, we're just trying to put you in a situation to make as much money as you can, there. So, Ken, running solo, so your driver can go home. Appreciate that. Okay, Chris Burn, again, with increased volume, we'll have to see. It's a business, for all of us and everything, but, we just have to, try to meet and match, the needs of our customers. This is not a normal environment. Once again, I'll emphasize that. And just because our customers say, hey, listen, I've got, more loads for you, doesn't mean they're going to pay, more for that. Years past, I remember we had a customer call us in December and say, hey, listen, we've got 5 loads that need to go, about 1,000 miles. Do you want us to give us a rate on that? And we were at max capacity. I mean, it's and we don't say no. We just give them a number, and we gave them a big number, and I mean the number was huge. I mean, over $10 a mile, and they said no, we don't need you. At that rate, and we said that's fine. I mean, we've got enough stuff, going on. But about an hour later, they called us back and they said, okay, we'll take that rate. And we ended up telling them, well, sorry, that rate was good an hour ago. Now the rate's even higher, and they took that higher rate. Chris, that's not the situation we're in right now. I mean, it's if we don't take the capacity, they're going to give to somebody else. And you let somebody else with a foot in the door, I mean, it's a risk, for us, there. So again, there's a time to be greedy. There's a time to be, good partners, and in this environment, it behooves us to be good partners, out there. I mean, it's our friends and our customers, and they're generally both one and the same. Have other options that they may not have had in years past, there. So it's and all of that flows, through. Every aspect of business, right? So again, just because we have an extra ask, of you, doesn't always mean that we can pay, extra for it. Sometimes we just got to, perform that extra ask, because of the situation and the environment that we're in, here. So anyway, Tevin, here for it. Appreciate you, there. Marciano, Ande, hey, listen, we appreciate your willingness, there, okay? So, and again, 80% of our drivers and customers are fantastic, and I think 80% of our interactions are fantastic. 20% aren't always, and so we can't forget that, that we're not perfect, but man, we do really, good things and have really good relationships. And Ande, really appreciate your comments, there, and willing to, to help out there. So, so anyway, John, Christmas stuff in January. Listen, I mean, it always happens. There's a big fall off, in January, right? There. So financially, and again, money doesn't buy happiness. But I tell everybody this all the time: try to be happy without enough money to pay your bills, right? And so it's just, those are some of the strategies and the decisions, that we all have to make as a business, as individuals. I'm just putting that out there, for your consideration. So, John, appreciate your planning and anticipation on that. So, Tasia, Labay, Quebec, the sleep schedule with those loads, so bad. Send us a message. I haven't heard that, but let's look at that situation again. We do have a lot of port moves, that are coming up here. So anyway, okay. I am going to. I think I've addressed most. I think I've addressed everything. Really appreciate you guys, Marciano, Patrick, all of you guys. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, but Jamila, Mayorga. Really appreciate all of you. Appreciate this. Appreciate your comments. Appreciate your questions. Feel free to email me, michael.fisk@roadmastergroup.com. Anything else. And again, we don't have to agree on everything, but I'm happy to explain at least our perspective of why and how we're making decisions. So anyway, appreciate all of you. Have a great Thanksgiving, and again, really appreciate all of you. Thank you. Bye.